Hello everyone, my name is Utsav and in this session we are going to discuss about the A-B testing. To start with, I'm going to kind of divide A-B testing into three components. The first component is about the hypothesis creation. The second component is about the A-B testing setup. And the third component is about running and kind of generation of the inference. So let's start with the hypothesis creation. So let's take an example of let's say Amazon, and Amazon wants to launch a feature which is like ads ROI kind of feature. This feature is simply like from the seller side, Amazon seller side, right? They can add a certain amount that they want to spend on the Amazon ads, and they can this feature will enable them to calculate the ROI of this app. So this is again a hypothetical kind of example just to illustrate the concept. Now let's come to the hypothesis. So as a product manager, my hypothesis is that adding this feature would increase my overall spend by the existing sellers on the Amazon application. And the hypothesis must be also based on some of the user research insights, or it could be based on some of the data that you've analyzed as a product manager, and you've got the insights from there. So once you've built this hypothesis, what you do is you move on to the second step, which is the setting up of the A/B experiments. Now, within the setting up of A/B experiments, there are 3-4 things, right? So the first thing here is that I want to understand that what is my target audience. So who do I think that in my experiment I want to launch them for? And so the let's say, for example, as I mentioned, right, that my hypothesis says that this will impact the existing sellers. So maybe I can take the existing sellers as a target audience, or even within that I can have like a sub audience, like that sellers who have been in the platform for X number of months, more than X number of months, or maybe I can look at the sellers who've at least kind of got one order already on the platform, on the Amazon platform, right? So once I get this target segment, what I do is I kind of set up the experiment in a sense that within the target segment there will be two groups. One group will be the control group, which will not be changed. There will be no change in here. And the other group will be the experiment group. So in the experiment group, we make this change, the earlier hypothesis that I've talked about, and we compare the metric, right? Whatever metric that was I wanted to move as a part of my hypothesis between the control and the experiment. Now, one of the other critical part is the data split and the homogeneity. So the data has to be split between the control and the experiment in a kind of random manner, so that both the segments are homogenized, in a sense that the kind of seller groups, or kind of which the attributes of a seller group has to be more or less the similar in a way the traffic has been split between the control and the experiment. This will ensure the reason why this is critical is because if we have like a skewed data, right, so it can impact the end result. Like, let's say if the control is more of a older kind of sellers, and the experiment group is more like a recent sellers in the last 6 months. So if we split the data in that way between our target audience, then it might impact the outcome of our experiment, which we don't want. So now this is and also few of the important statistical metric is that how much confidence level we need to have, and things like that also should be taken into account. So once we have set up the experiment, we've ensured that it is homogenized, we move on to running the experiment, right, where we gather the data And as I said, there has to be like a statistical significance, so we can calculate, right? There are tools available out there which enables us to calculate that, okay, for this statistical significance and this much of a movement in the metric, how much audience do I need to run this, and for how long do I need to run this for. And so once I've started collecting the data, and based on the duration and the audience, I get a significant amount of data which can help me, or which can enable me take a particular conclusion. So I can either validate or invalidate my hypothesis. Let's say my hypothesis is validated. That means that there has been a significant rise. So I need to also determine the threshold, right? That how much rise I think it will be there in the metric, and how much rise would I consider as a successful experiment, right? So there has to be like a significant rise. At the same time, there has to be significant confidence level that I can say with let's say 95% confidence that my metric has gone from this point to this point. So assuming that this experiment was successful, so up to now what I've covered is the hypothesis creation and the experiment setup and running the experiment. And now what I want to finally come to is the conclusions, right? So they are not always black and white, right? There could be different shades of gray, right? In a sense that there could be some experiments where you have to take a human judgment based on the results. But when you have to take that call, you have to kind of, as a product manager, you have to think about the overall company's vision, mission, the overall business goals that a company has, and how much that metric, the movement of that metric has been aligned to those business goals. At the same time, you also have to think about the trade-offs. So while if I consider this experiment as successful, what are the risks or the trade-offs that I have, and is it justified at this number, or what is the call that I should take. So this summarizes, it's a very this summarizes the overview of how A/B testing is run and how are the results that are interpreted. Thanks a lot.